This is not C2K, in fact, Joe. And
it is I, by the way. I know I'm wearing glasses, but my eyesight is failing me.
But then we are on this beautiful rooftop, and I caught up with Joe, and there are a few questions I want to badger him with. The first being, how was your experience at the Champions League night, especially when you had an opportunity to speak to Miss Deepika Padukone?
Yes, that was definitely one of the highlights of the Champions League night, which is a lovely looking woman, she's a beautiful girl. It was a pleasure, is the best way to put it. It was an absolute and utter pleasure. No, I mean, it's part and parcel now of football, certainly in India and this part of the world. A lot of celebrities, a lot of Bollywood celebrities in particular, are now actively following football. It is the new cool sport. It's like cricket. That was so yesterday, you know. Football is actually cool to be part of. But yeah, I just managed to keep my focus and my professionalism together. My mind did wander for one or two moments during the course of that interview.
Which Madrid were you supporting?
I was actually supporting the underdogs, if I'm honest. Atletico.
And did your heart break in the 93rd minute?
It didn't break because my heart only ever breaks when it comes to anything involving Newcastle United, so I live with a permanently broken heart, because obviously that's my team, but my heart didn't break, but I did feel for them. I felt for them because they were so close, but I was also angry with them as well, to be quite honest with you, Abby. Someone on the post. If there's someone on the post, then I can't understand this obsession with certain goalkeepers. In particular, it seems to be goalkeepers in Spain, with goalkeepers that do not put at least one man, if not two, on the post. I mean, Cristiano Ronaldo and Sergio Ramos all season have scored goals in a similar fashion, in a similar position, in a similar style to the one that was scored for the equaliser that night. And if someone's on the post, they win.
Do you think Atletico put too much into their final game with Barcelona and they were maybe tiring at the end of 90 minutes?
No. I think, you know, you've got to remember when it comes to an occasion like a Champions League final, confidence and momentum wipes away any feelings of legginess, tiredness. As soon as that equaliser happened, all of a sudden the players looked tired. No one said the players looked tired, Atletico players I'm talking about. No one said they looked tired prior to the equaliser. So no, I don't think it had any bearing. Costa had a bearing on the final. And that was a huge mistake by Atletico.
So do you think that's the coach's mistake or was it the player's mistake himself?
Well, you and I don't know who made the decision. Did the player make the call? Did the coach make the call? Did the physio make the call? We don't know that. Whoever made the call should be taken out and shot, as far as I'm concerned. And the reason being that I think that, and I'm sure that you'll go and check this after this interview, I'm sure that's the third time this season that Diego Costa has not been fully fit, has come on and played a quarter of an hour, maximum 20 minutes, and then has had to be subbed off again. So this isn't the first time. It happened in the quarter-final, was it? Of the Champions League, where Costa came on, he wasn't fully fit, he'd had an injury problem and he came off before even 20 minutes. It's a bad call, and I'll tell you why it's a bad call. Because when he got to extra time, I don't know if you remember, Juan Fran fell really badly, sorry, he was in a challenge, and twisted his ankle, and he couldn't run. We were watching him as the game was going on in extra time. He could not run. And who went past him? For what was essentially the goal that killed the tie. Di Maria went past him and he couldn't move his feet. Now, here's the thing. If you haven't used up one of your substitutions within 10 minutes of the match, you could have had a substitution when you got to extra time. And that's, Juan Fran could have been subbed for someone who was fit. Di Maria doesn't go past him. It's still 1-1. It may have gone, and these are all ifs and buts, of course, that's the world we live in. It may have gone to the penalties, and Atletico might have won, who knows? You and I just don't know that. But it's those moments which, in my opinion, make or break That's what I love about the Champions League. Make or break the matches, not just the final, but make or break all matches.
And how about your take on such a dramatic season in the English Premier League, wherein you had almost 4 contenders in it at one stage? So how was it on a whole for you? Did you find this probably the best edition of the Premier League ever in the recent 4 to 5 years?
Well, the Premier League is the most competitive league, I think, from top to bottom, out of all the leagues in Europe. And it's fabulously marketed, let's make no bones about that. But if you want to make it like for like, well, the Spanish League went to the final day before it was decided. The Premier League, well, it went to the final day, but there was one leading contender, and that was Manchester City. That would be an absolute disaster. So my question to you is, how do you measure it? How do you measure it? In terms of entertainment, I think the entertainment, in my opinion, was provided solely by Liverpool, because no one expected Liverpool to be challenging for the title. Certainly at the beginning of the season, no one expected that. So Liverpool coming into the mix and Manchester United having such a disaster of a season made it one of the best seasons. But it was because of those two elements in particular. You and I, with a crystal ball, could have sat at the beginning of the season. We would never have predicted that Manchester United wouldn't have been in Europe, and we could never have predicted that Liverpool, up to 2-3 games to go, could be going for the title. No one could have predicted that.
The World Cup is coming up, and it is such a saviour for us, at least this year, because after the league season ends, we probably don't have anything to look forward to, but then we have something to keep us engaged. Whom are you rooting for?
Who am I rooting for? I've got to say England, haven't I?
Unfortunately, Scotland is not in the World Cup.
Scotland will not be getting knocked out in the group stages, that is true.
Yeah. So, do you think the England team, with all the youth it has infused into it, will have a fair chance, will have a fair crack at the World Cup this time?
Yes, and I'll tell you why. Because, but my fear is that Roy Hodgson will play safe. He got the Euros wrong, in my opinion. No one expected England to win the Euros after a new manager has just been employed a month before. So the press would be off his back, the fans would be off the back, no expectations. And they're not great expectations from England fans, I don't think, for this World Cup. So why not just throw caution to the wind and get those youth players in? You know, I saw bits of the game the other night, the game against Peru.
Adam Lallana, I think, had a good game.
Yeah. So why didn't he start with Raheem Sterling? You know, I'm not convinced about Danny Welbeck. I don't think he's a world-class striker. So, you know, if they go with players that have had, Raheem Sterling really mixes it up. You need that in a World Cup. And hey, there's nothing to be lost. If you go out of the group stage, you go out of the group stage. It's as simple as that. There are no expectations. What happens in 4 years' time, for example? Are you going to go to that World Cup and let's say England have a miserable group, qualifying group, or another group of death if you like, and get knocked out of the group stage? What are you going to say? Oh, well, it was a young team. No, you can't say it was a young team. The young team was 4 years ago, then 6 years ago for the Euros. So you don't have that excuse anymore. Roy Hodgson has the excuse to come back from this, if he wants an excuse, to come back from this tournament and say, hey, look, you know, there's a lot of new players and young players that haven't experienced a tournament before, so let's go for it. I spent so much time, as you know, with Sir Bobby Robson, the late great Sir Bobby Robson, and you know, I can picture in my head, I can hear his voice. He'd be sitting here now and saying, get Raheem Sterling in, you know, get these players in. Forget the reputations, you know. Let's go for the youth. You love legs, and it's in a country which is hot and humid. So you need legs, and you need youth, and that will far outweigh the experience.
Which players do you think will have an impact on the World Cup? But I'm not talking about the big names. I'm talking about names that haven't sprung out yet, whom you might have watched on and off, and whom you think might spark the World Cup into life in some way or the other.
You're talking about a young player, are you, in particular?
A young player or a relatively unknown player who might have a bigger impact than what we might foresee.
Well, I think first and foremost, for any player to shine, he's got to be in a team that unexpectedly shines, hasn't he? Or a team that, you know, people maybe don't think are going to go all the way to the final. So, and the team that just jumps out for me at the moment is Belgium. So, putting that kind of rationale together, I would say that the player would probably come from that Belgium 11. Whether it be Courtois, who's had a brilliant season, I mean, do you count that amongst you? You said a young player, do you count that? Courtois may just be the goalkeeper of the tournament. Or maybe we might be looking at, I mean, Benteke's obviously injured, but which is a shame, but likes of Lukaku, you know, a goal scorer who's proven himself in the Premier League and might just light up the tournament. Me personally, I'm always looking for a playmaker, that's what I'm looking for. And I would go back to someone like Sterling, or I love Oxlade-Chamberlain. I love his football brain. Someone like him given a run, I think he would do the same. You know, when Raheem Sterling came on against Peru, I was on the edge of my seat. I wasn't on the edge of my seat for the prior. What time did he come on? 60 minutes. I wasn't on the edge of my seat prior to 65 minutes. And fans aren't stupid. They see what you and I see. They see what the pundits see, the media sees. So if they're sitting there for 65 minutes and watching an England team that looks like it's going through the motions, you know, the goals, were 2 goals from set pieces?
Yeah, one from Sturridge, which was from open play.
Yeah, but it was from a throw-in.
From a throw-in.
Right, so strictly speaking it's not a set piece, but going back a few moves it is a set piece. So, you know, it's sort of like, wow, here's a guy that can run at people, take them on, have a go, excites the fans, no matter which fans you are, whether you're England or other. So I'm going to stick with, from a patriotic point of view, I would hope someone like Canatu,
Sure.
Sterling and Oxlade-Chamberlain. I hope he starts with Oxlade-Chamberlain, I really do. I'm not sure whether he will. I would say it might be Gerrard and Henderson, but I would like to see. Maybe he pushed Oxlade-Chamberlain further forward.
Now this question is not coming because we are Manchester United fans, but at the end, even if I wouldn't have been a Manchester United fan, the question would have come up. He's an unknown quantity, and at his age, again, he's somebody who's shown a lot of promise and a lot of maturity by the way he plays his football. Do you think he again might be an X factor again from Belgium, as we are saying?
Yeah. Yes, why not? In the times that I haven't watched a tremendous amount of Manchester United games this season, I mean, he's without question a talent, no ifs or buts about that. There are, however, occasions where his final decision is not the best. So he can do the damage and take on a couple of players, and then he just takes it one step too far. Instead of looking for the pass or putting the cross in, just one step too far. That's my only fear, and that'll come with experience. Which is where I like, I mean, Oxlade-Chamberlain, for example, I'm just using him as an example, is not a young, unknown quantity. He's been playing in the Premier League a few seasons now, but he knows exactly when to release it, and exactly when to take people on, and exactly when to give it up, and, you know. So, I still look for the football brain as well as the...
And talking about footballing brain, Luke Shaw. He's someone I personally also feel he has a maturity that belies his years.
Yeah, correct, yeah.
So do you have like expectations from him as well?
Yeah, I mean, it's a different position, isn't it? And this comes back to the manager again. I remember watching Sven-Göran Eriksson in Euro, what would it be? Which was the Euros in Portugal? Was that 2004?
2004, 2005. Yes.
2004, I think it was Portugal Euros. And I think Sven was in charge, wasn't he, in 2004? And Ashley Cole is one of the best rampaging left-backs in the world, in my opinion, certainly at his peak. He very rarely went past the halfway line because there was this caution to the team. So Luke Shaw is a fabulous attacking fullback. Defensively, I still think he's got a bit to learn defensively. I don't think he's
only 19.
Yes, he's only 19. I don't think he's the best defensive fullback. Leighton Baines is probably better defensively as a fullback. So it comes back to the manager again. Where does the caution come in? Roy Hodgson can pick Luke Shaw, who's arguably, this is just my opinion, arguably better in attack in that final third as a fullback overlapping the wing. Or he plays it safe and goes for latent veins. And I'm not talking about the experience part. Latent veins is of course more experienced. But latent veins may just sit back a little bit more. So what do you want? And this comes all the way back to what I was saying before about there's no expectation on England to win. Throw caution to the wind.
What do you typically do on a World Cup night? I know what I do. I buy chips, I stock up, and I'm done. How do you watch your World Cup night?
Well, I try and vary it. The thing for me is I love World Cups because I'm allowed to be a fan. I was at the last World Cup in South Africa, and I'll probably be able to tell you in a couple of days whether I'll be at this World Cup in Brazil. But as a fan, so and I think it's important, especially. I know so many football presenters who've never been out the studio and never been to games as a fan since they started their career. Why? You know? Why? I think you still need to go to games as a fan where you're not sitting down, because I time code everything that happens in a match. I write down crosses, passes, everything, so building up pattern to play. So I like to, and it's difficult, especially when you broadcast from abroad. It's difficult to get to games. I go to the games in the UAE. Sometimes when I'm over here in India, I'll go to games as well, because I like to go as a fan and experience it as a fan. And when you get a penalty given against you, you go, oh, and when the goal goes in, you cheer, and you're not worried about clip number 3 and did you get the left back's tackle that should have been a yellow card and not, it's gone, forgotten. You celebrate, you commiserate, it's over with, drown your sorrows in a bar in Rio de Janeiro. I think for me it's important to do that, so I will try, as I always do, to experience the World Cup in different places. I don't believe in just sitting in my living room for a month and watching the games. I will watch some of the games at home. I also don't believe in going to my local bar for all of the games. I will try and watch in different parts of the globe.
Coming on to the last segment, there is a picture I saw of you, Baji.
It wasn't me, Your Honour.
It was, and I don't know the time, wherein I think it was when the match was going on and you guys were off air. All of you had your feet up on bean bags and you were watching the game. So for some people, okay, what you do when you're bringing the game to so many people is a lot of fun, right? Is it?
It's like, yes it is, and but there are elements that sometimes are a chore, it's, for example, take a Champions League night, a group stage night, for example, there are 8 games one night, 8 games the next night. I still have to go and research all 8 games, even though a couple of those games might be, I'm trying to think of an example off the top of my head, maybe like a Zenit or teams that have squeaked into the Champions League because they did relatively well in their weaker league. So Basel is probably a better example, even though Basel did really well in the Champions League this year. But Basel, for example, are a good, so you've got to go and research them, and it is a chore because you just want to do research, and it's easy to do research about the Manchester Uniteds and the Real Madrids and the Barcelonas and the Milans, AC Milan, Inter Milan, Juventus, etc. It's very easy to do that. So yes, there are downsides, but yes, if you're not having fun doing it, I think that comes across on air. And it shouldn't be, if you're then not having fun on air, it's boring to watch, in my opinion. You're the viewer, so you're a better person to...
One thing that I've always watched is the way you interact with the fans via tweets. And Joe Footy really does trend sometimes during Champions League nights. What is your personal takeaway from it? Like, besides doing it for the show, when you interact with fans, what sort of addition does it make to your own footballing knowledge, in a way, or in your own capacity as a presenter?
Well, in capacity as a presenter, I'm not sure if it does. I mean, what I love about what I love about Twitter in particular, because I'm not on Facebook, what I love about Twitter in particular is a direct interaction with the fans. And for me, it's like my own little personal market research tool. So I can tell what fans enjoy, and if that matches what I think they will enjoy. And sometimes I get it wrong. You know, whether it's which game to select as your main game, or whether it's what people enjoy about the show. You know, we have various segments and elements to the programs, and when we're going through production meetings and stuff like that and saying, oh, I think this would be a good idea, I can think in my head that it's an amazing idea, and the fans on Twitter can give me feedback and say if we didn't enjoy that. And then there's other things which I think, well, you know what, I'm not sure if the viewers will like that, and the fans will come back on Twitter and go, oh, that was amazing, we loved that, when's the next episode, or when are we doing that again? So it's a great interaction, it's a great market research tool for me, and more than anything else, I think it keeps my finger on the pulse of our audience. And I think it's the most common mistake of many TV shows, not just sport, not just football, but also many TV presenters. They don't know their audience. They don't know who they're broadcasting to.
The one thing that I can tell you for a fact is that people actually rack their brains to come up with a quirky tweet just so that you might read it on air. So that in a way is, I think, glorifies the point you're trying to make. That gets people here. So it's even the audience is like wanting to engage with you on that medium.
I like the spontaneity of it. And there's a constant, I'm constantly battling my producers because they want it to be more considered, you know. And Twitter is spontaneous. It's a thought for a moment that's thrown out there, and it's immediately history as soon as it's thrown out there. So the thing I love about the spontaneity is it's what's inside you. You know, and I love that passion. It's like you will say things such as Fellaini's useless, you know, and he was the worst buy we ever had. Now you can say that on the base of one game, and then the next game Fellaini might score the winning goal in a Champions League match, and you'll go like, oh, I love Fellaini. So it doesn't. You don't really hate Fellaini, and you want to kill him, and you don't really love him, and he's you know, your favourite person on the whole planet. But all that is a reflection of how you felt during those particular matches. And I like to drag that out on Twitter when we're live on air. And also, the other side of things is, at times, there are people that will send me questions on Twitter, which I generally hadn't thought of, because it might be a completely different angle. It might not be a specific analytical, tactical question which I would be thinking about to ask our guest. You know, someone would come out of left field with a question, and it's like, oh, what a great question, you know, throw it in there.
A lot of us in India do follow the game very passionately, and we have our own views about the game. And I know for a fact that there are people who want to get into what you're doing. So the only question I would ask you is, you told me that the last time, but then is there any training required for something like this? Is there any prerequisite that is required, or is it just networking and being enthusiastic about it and then making contacts and then ready for anyone?
Yeah, pretty much, yeah. I mean, you can do training. There's a lot of people going, a lot of presenters start off in journalism, which gives you a very good background, but I'm not sure it necessarily gives you on a persona. We had a conversation before we started doing this interview about managers, didn't we? And about you can do all the courses, you can get all your badges and your pro licenses and all the rest of it, but there is a huge difference between that and standing in a changing room full of multi-millionaire footballers and big egos and managing them. And a lot of managers, even experienced managers, David Moyes, you know, lost the dressing room. There's a classic example. And the parallels with regards to being a presenter, I think are the same. You can go and do all the training and all the rest of it. It doesn't mean to say you're a good presenter. And it doesn't mean to say you've got that X factor. You can turn up and you can go on air and you can read an order cue and you can, you know, do this, that and the other. And you can get through a show from beginning to end live. It doesn't mean people will talk about it. sometimes I think you need a personality, and I read a great article recently, and I can't for the life of me remember who wrote it, but it was in a British newspaper, I think it was. He was talking about sports presentation in general, not just football, and he said it's the bland leading the bland, and I totally agree. We're in an entertainment industry, so yes, we've got to get the facts out and the analysis and the tactical, but also, you know, you don't want, I certainly don't want, and I've failed, by the way, if people are tuning into our shows and not watching the show, just waiting for kickoff, and instead they're looking at their iPad or their laptop and getting all their information, or trawling websites for entertainment and fun and all the rest of it, it means we've failed. It means I've failed. So, one is the background, you're absolutely right, you go down that route. Get as much experience as you can. I believe in the 10,000 hour rule, which is just nothing beats doing time, because you make so many mistakes along the way, you learn so much along the way, and you improve so much along the way as a result of it. But the most important element, even though it's that final 10%, is the most important percentage, and that is get a charisma, get a personality. Because if you've got that, you'll be better than most of the presenters that are out there, and I don't care what your forte is, whether it's a news presenter or a sports presenter or a wildlife presenter or whatever. You know.
I have thick eyebrows. Does that count for charisma and personality?
You've got two. Do you shave a bit in the middle?
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Unibrow.
For no, I don't want to be called that, so I shave. It's been a pleasure again interacting with you. Thank you so much, and we hope you send us a postcard from Brazil to the world.
A postcard from Ipanema. Okay.
So that is all, and we hope to keep catching him again and again. So for now, bye bye and take care.